Up.
Clap, clap.
Cue the music. 3, 2, 1. Word up.
Word up.
Word up. We're back.
Yeah.
It's been a little while, long while. It's been some changes in our video department.
Yeah.
Right here at Sightbox for the last couple of months. We've been shuffling guys around, now we're shooting on phones and doing whatever we got to do. We got Sienna in the back producing today.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sienna. But we're back. Feels good. We haven't talked about this stuff in a while. No. Maybe for those that have not listened to previous episodes, give us like the 30-second pitch. What's the Word Up series?
Word Up is our... I'll move it a little closer here. So Word Up is sort of our way of kind of mixing a little bit of faith, a little bit of business, a little bit of whatever. So we're really just kind of trying to, bring together the things that we think are important and, stuff that Charlie and I are into and, things that sort of speak to us. So give us an opportunity to kind of reflect ourselves and share something with the rest of the world. So that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, we had a common theme probably a month ago, I would say, where you it was probably a Sunday night Monday. You're like, man, they spoke about generosity or something along those lines, right? That you
something spoke to me about that. Yeah.
About that, and wasn't really sure what to do with that. I like to believe we're pretty generous with our time and some of the stuff that we do with our clients. Most of the time, we're pretty generous, especially recently. We're trying to get new clients, and we're on the hunt now, so it requires a lot more of that. But I think a week or two later, something, I don't know, said to me, you want to really be generous, go to that safety net there that you have and put some of it out there, like give it away. We're like, whoa, what? That was it was about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. So we put it into action in different ways. Yep. And the idea is that what you put out there sort of comes back, right? Yeah. What you put out there sort of comes back, sometimes twofold, tenfold, in different ways, right? There's a lot of people that talk about putting out, in the harvest, you put the seed, right?
That's right.
Plant the seeds. And
That's
then
right.
You got to still do the work, you got to water it, you got to nurture it, all this stuff, and then eventually stuff blossoms.
That's right.
I feel like we're in that season right now, right? A little bit. Yeah. I don't know. How did that whole thing speak to you? Like, what did it mean to you to be generous?
Well, I think so. There's a quote, and I can't remember who said this, but there's a great quote that says that being wealthy isn't a matter of having a lot of riches, but having few wants.
Ooh.
Think about that for a second. Yeah. And I don't know who said it. I'm sure it's someone famous, but there's something to that and sort of wanting having, those few wants sort of mean something, making sure that those matter. So I don't know. I think there's something to that and the idea of generosity and sort of giving it away. One thing, I'll kind of get a little deep, I guess. So this is something to think about for a second, which is that, I'm going to get a little deep.
Go for it.
So a thought occurred to me recently that when you think of sort of, what Jesus did for us, he gave it all away, right? And, you know, the thing about that I think it sort of, you know, we all say it, you know, he died for our sins, you know, becomes sort of a common sort of phrase. But when you think of it this way, like he laid down his life, and it wasn't because we deserve it. And it wasn't because we earned it, right? He did it because he loves us, and that was enough, right? And so the thought of how do we, you know, when we give, do we give because the other is worth it, you know, because they've earned it, you know, because there's some sort of reciprocity waiting for us?
Yeah.
Or should we just give it away? Not because we expect something in return, but because that what we're doing matters. That giving to the other person is really what's paramount.
Right.
And I think there's some real truth to that. I think there's the idea of being generous is in fact that it's giving when you don't expect something in return, right? That's really giving. Otherwise, You're just making an exchange.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's giving without...
Yeah, there's those people that year-end giving, I got to get rid of it so I don't pay taxes on it, right? And then there's the people that give it because they want nothing in return for it, right?
Yeah.
It's something that's sort of in them to put it out there, right? But if we go back to business a little bit, there's also people that believe that there's a couple of schools of thought. One is that you put it out there, that you shouldn't hang on to it. The money should never be something. Well, with Think and Grow Rich, I used to read a lot over the years, and there was some parts of it, of that sort of methodology of I haven't read it in a long time, but it was this idea of like putting it out there, like whatever comes in should always be going out, and that you should be. I believe the book used the traffic signal guy. Remember the old school guy that used to control traffic?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Before there was lights.
Yeah.
I forget what he called those guys. It'd be like, you guys, you know,
yeah,
you
like
wait.
a traffic cop or
traffic
something.
cop, whatever. That's what you should be with money. If we're talking about money specifically.
Yeah.
That the only way it's going to sort of come back to you is if you get rid of it.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's one school of thought when we're talking about money and business specifically. The other one is, if you're getting real practical, you know, the idea that it doesn't just, you don't hoard it.
Yeah.
What you have, but you put it to work.
Yeah.
Right. Not really. I'm kind of going off the generosity thing, but I think if people are listening and they're thinking about that, you know, the money part of it.
Sure.
That there is some benefits, I think, to getting rid of it.
Well, yeah. Well, there's the parable,
ways.
right, of the guy who gave 3 of his servants money, right? One guy goes and basically invests it and, you know,
brought back more,
grows,
right?
Makes it grow. And
Yeah.
the other guy kind of basically does a little bit of the same. And then that one last guy, he like buried it. Remember that?
Yeah.
And he's like, here you go. And he's like, you're a fool.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Like
that's
you're
not
fired.
that's not what you're supposed
Right?
to do with it.
Yeah.
Right? You're supposed to go and, you know, and that in its own way is sort of like a hoarding thing, like just
Sure.
being, you know, very fearful
Right.
with money, you know? Yeah, it's weird, man. Money's a weird thing. Like,
Yeah, it is.
It's, you know, it's a weird thing. I wish I had a better sense of it sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it scares me sometimes, and sometimes it's like, it excites me, but then, you know.
Yeah.
You
Then
know.
there's also like this, when you talked about, what was that quote you just said about?
Oh, I guess it's not about having a lot of money, but few wants.
Few
Something.
wants,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, you know, Gary Vee talks about mostly stuff, because in 2019 in America,
Yeah.
people are about things, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
It's all about stuff.
Yeah.
And he was saying something along the lines of, man, if you could sort of get to a point where you don't need anything and you could sort of live with not much,
Yeah.
then you become dangerous. And he used the word dangerous. Like things get, I mean, I won't use this colorful language on this, on this show, but yeah, the things get really, really dangerous at that point. Because then you're playing the game for something else. You know what I mean? You're willing to put it all out there. You're willing to invest. You're willing to be generous. You're willing to gamble even. Because what's the alternative? The money's going to sit in the bank, or you're going to buy something you don't need.
Yeah.
What's the alternative?
That's right.
And then, I don't know, man, there's something to that. Obviously, it's a lot more difficult when you got families and bills, you know, like we do, but it still sort of applies. You know, we're in the middle of transitioning our entire business, or a good portion of it, to something completely different, working with founders, startups, in a field we've never been in, or never been as a service provider, I guess I should call it.
Right.
We've been on the other side of it, and we're out in the hunt, right?
Yeah.
We're having to hunt.
Yeah.
And if we needed to sort of maintain a lot of the luxuries we've had over the years, it would be so hard to do it. But the fact that we're sort of learning to do with less and put more out there, you know, is I think going to make a difference for us, to give us a chance, you know, to succeed in this. Because granted, I did go on vacation a couple of weeks ago, but we had planned that a long time ago. But it's just, you know, we just, what can we do with less? Can we be more generous? Probably.
Yeah. And I think it's really about giving it away, you know, at the end of the day, like whatever you have. And not just what's extra, what's left over, but give the good stuff, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like give the good stuff away. I think that's huge. That's something that I think most people are afraid to do. I mean, I'm afraid to do it, you know. But when I'll give you an example though. I mean, we've been doing a lot of pitches lately, you know, and part of the strategy in that, and our tactic has been just give it away. We're going to do some ideas. We're going to work up work, right? Yeah. And we're just going to send it. I mean, some of that stuff we just sent, like straight up, like send it in the, on an email, off it goes. We may never hear back. We may never see from those, see those people again, and that's fine. That's part of it, and in some ways it's even, I guess from my perspective, like the fact that we put in the time on that work, sometimes it's frustrating that it's not reciprocated, but at the same time, it's still satisfying that we went through that process, it was satisfying that process of creating that work and solving those problems for those people, whether or not they're received or not, it feels like we're benefiting from that. There's a gift in that giving, right? Yeah. And so, and that sort of helps to me at least give that sense like, okay, we're probably on the right track. If just the process of doing the work is giving to us, then it's probably just a matter of time before it's reciprocated, And so
I believe that,
so I feel like that's sort of long term. Like I feel like we're on that right track, and we have to keep that idea going, And this goes, when we were talking yesterday, I kind of threw you an idea yesterday, sort of around this generosity thing. I'd love people's thoughts on this, but we had talked years ago about the Sightbox Foundation, right? And sort of creating a 501c for the agency, and in fact, you'd already done that, right? And so the thought, and we had played with this years ago, but it was sort of coming around again, which is this idea of really taking part of what we do and giving it away, right? So having clients that, you know, almost taking that sort of Tom's one-to-one model and saying for all these, you know, for these paid clients that we're getting, we're going to go ahead and sort of take some of that fund and we're going to put it towards startups or entrepreneurs that are really just starting out, but that are doing things that we think have sort of a bigger impact, right? Sort of, you know, social good, you know, clean tech, you know, people who are starting out a business, you know, in rough parts of LA, stuff like that, where, you know, really it's taking what we do and doing, you know, and giving it away as part of what we do as an agency. And so I still think at some point, like right now, we're still figuring out our way, but I would love to go back to that idea. I think that's powerful.
Yeah.
You know,
I haven't even thought of that in a long time.
Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had, there was a
Sightbox.org.
So, yeah.
I had the domain and everything.
Really?
Yeah. Might have to look it up.
Maybe it's still
Hopefully
out there.
It's still out there.
But yeah, but I there's something to that, you know. And I'll be honest too. Like when you look at, you know, what other agencies are doing out there, I mean, a lot of agencies will take on pro bono clients. That's not a new thing. But what I do think is, you know, even those pro bono clients, really the goal there is, you know, to create some work that has some reciprocation. Like this will be great for their portfolio. This will look good to, you know, the head of this charity is also on the board, you know, on the board of this charity is also the CEO of some other company. And so there's sort of like this like way back to the business. But I would love to sort of be like, there is no way that these, you know, we start from the, you know, grassroots bottom stuff where there's no way those companies or those startups could ever sort of, there's, you know, the road back to us and benefiting us, they'll never be able to pay us back, if that makes sense.
And it wouldn't be about that.
Right. It wouldn't be about that.
I think we even said, I think you made a video.
I did. Point. Yeah. We entered a competition or something.
Yeah. And it was something along the lines of like making, what was it? Like making the world look better, or like, I don't know.
I forget what it was.
It's like taking crusty brands and like revitalizing
them. Yeah. And the idea was that for every sort of corporate brand we'd work on, we'd create a brand somewhere else, you know? And, you know, we were looking at partnering with, I think it was like, you know, like Inglewood, you know, Chamber of Commerce or something like that, and finding these things. In fact, in the video, we took like an aquarium shop. Remember this?
We did.
We took literally like looked on Google Maps, found some aquarium store in, you know, or fish store or whatever in, you know, South Central, and just did a quick rebrand of it, you know, and kind of made it look cool. And we said, you know, this is what we can do for a lot of other companies. Anyway, I'd love to sort of at some point look back at that.
And I've worked with a lot of nonprofits. I'm sure you have too, but early in sort of these Sightbox years, there was a lot of need for a lot of things. And most of the time they were just cash strapped, you know, they didn't have the money to do it. And that's part of the reason why I started it in the first place, is because I said, you know, I don't want money to be what holds them back.
Yeah.
I want to give them the tools they need to fulfill their cause, which is why, I mean, these people are giving up their lives, you know, to do this thing. So that was the idea. And then, you know, by the means of the tools, the branding and all the stuff that we do, that would give them, you know, an opportunity to be able to raise money and do more things and that sort of thing, because it gives them a better sort of look, right? It amplifies their cause, you know, quite a bit.
Yeah, listen, be taken seriously.
Be taken serious.
You know,
exactly. I mean, branding matters everywhere, all the time, and I'm glad where this sort of discussion led us, because I think we need to go back to that.
Yeah. I mean,
especially now that we're, you know, with all this startup stuff.
Yeah.
There's startup nonprofits, you know, they're out there.
Yeah. Dude, I met a guy the other day at Stubbs, he's got this startup. I'll look him up and see if I can post him in our comments thing here. But he had a startup that basically hooked up people who knew CPR. So if you had been trained in CPR, you'd sign up on this app. And if anyone was sort of in need of CPR and had the app, they could say, I need someone who knows CPR like right now. And they would dispatch you. Because they said, like, you know, if you're in, you know, if you can get to this person, you know, literally seconds matter. And I was like, man, that's powerful. Yeah. Like, you know, like that's like sort of like almost like that, you know, Nobel Peace Prize worthy kind of stuff. Like that's on another level of, you know, it's versus, you know, chasing a dollar in that way. It's just, that's the kind of stuff, you know. Now, that being said, chasing a dollar, that's such a bad way of saying it. But I think even for the people that we know, and when we're working with startups, 9 out of 10 of them are passionate founders that are trying to do something. There's sort of a sense of this has the potential to bring good into the world, you know. I don't think we've ever really, only on a couple occasions have we sort of even entertained stuff that's sort of sketch, but it ends up not even happening. Yeah. So we're sort of lucky in that way that we kind of came to our senses. But in some of these situations, like I think most of them, we have, you know, most founders and whatnot they're going after something that they believe in, and it's a good thing. So even though some of this stuff is charity, some of it may not be. I mean, like I said, even like green tech and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of, you know, social benefit to that stuff that I'd love to be a part of. So, yeah, you know, it's a lot of good stuff out there. What else? So I was going to say, today, I was telling you earlier, today is the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi. Mm-hmm. So, and just you know, it's kind of fitting that we're kind of having this discussion today, because he was a guy, he kind of came from a wealthy family, and he ended up giving it all away. And sort of one of the messages today was really about sort of being calm and finding peace despite sort of the world around us, right? And it's sort of funny because when he lived, he ended up he was in the military and all this stuff, and ended up getting injured and whatnot. But what was really interesting was that he, you know, like I said, he kind of realized that a simpler life was better. And he sort of one of the first ones to sort of take these vows of poverty. And so even now, if you're sort of a Franciscan, you have nothing. Like that's sort of the thing. Like you don't even, you know, you just don't own possessions that way. Anyway, I think it's sort of fitting that we're kind of having this discussion today. It's sort of on his feast day. I think it's kind of a nice thing. Yeah. And I think what's also true or interesting to me is, you know, this idea came to me the other day, which is again, getting a little deep. You know, if we really look at sort of what we're here to do in this day and age, it's you know, we're obviously striving, even as founders, as entrepreneurs, as people, to sort of reach a level of success. Like that's always sort of our goal. But I will say this, that we have to be careful how we pursue that, right? And what that actually means. What is that success? Because there's sort of the worldly understanding of that, right? Of money and, you know, influence, power, all those sort of things. And if you sort of think about it, and this sort of hit me, and it sounds a little weird when you say it, but it sort of dawned on me that, well, you know, if you really think about it, when, you know, Jesus died a failure. When he died, nobody was around. Like, if you thought of it this way, if he never came back, if he never rose, it would have been a complete bust, right? Yeah. Complete bust. Yeah. He went from, like, you know, he was really rising in the, you know, popularity, all this stuff, gets to Jerusalem. Next thing you know, Nobody wants to deal with him.
Everyone ghosted on him, right?
Complete ghost, right? Friends split.
Yeah.
You know, everybody who sort of had his back just gone, dipped. You know, it's like his mom was like the last one, right? Like, and you think about it, you're like, if that was the end of the story, it would just been a bust, you know? And that's the Son of God. That was his life. Think about it. That was his like earthly life. Bust. The end, right? So, but there's another story, right? There's another chapter of that story. And if we think of it that way too, our lives might be busts, you know? Mm-hmm. Who are we, right? If the Son of Man blows it, right? Ends up, deserted, alone, humiliated, right? Ridiculed, proven wrong, right? Everything. If that's how his life went, how is anything?
But you know why it went down that way, other than the known fact that it was supposed to go down that way,
right?
But he did zero to prove them otherwise. He didn't have to prove them wrong, right? Mm-hmm. When you really think about that for a second, since we're deep,
let's go.
Since we're deep,
yes.
It's like, if you are who you say you are, save yourself.
Yeah. Come down from the cross, right? Yeah.
You have all. If you say you are who you say you are, mm-hmm. you have the power for this to stop right
mm-hmm.
now.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Right.
Gave him nothing.
Yeah.
Because he had nothing to prove.
Yeah.
Right? And how many of us are trying to prove ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. Or flex, For
right.
what? For what?
Right.
You got nothing to prove.
Yeah.
You got nothing to prove.
Right.
Just live out what you're supposed to live out.
Right. And
the rest will sort of...
That's right. And he was obedient, right? He's like, I already know what I'm here to do.
That's it.
I already know my path.
Yeah.
And I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
And that was what he did. And his glory came after, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess in some ways, to me, like to me, it's a good reminder to say, if for us, they say we're not called to be, what is the thing? Let me think about it. It's something along the lines of like, we're not called necessarily to be successful, but to be faithful, right? Mm. Like that's really the bar that we're called to be. And everything else will sort of prove itself out. Yeah. Right. And if you think too, again, not getting, too crazy, but like a lot of even some of the greatest people that we know and look up to, they, it was after they died that we sort of celebrated who they were to that level, right? I mean, you look at MLK and stuff like that, all these people, it wasn't until they died that they became who they were, right? While they were living, they were controversial. Yeah. While they were living, they had, they were human beings that sort of struggled and had flaws like everyone else. But it was really sort of, once we look back and said what they stood for was monumental and should be celebrated. And that message became much larger than anything they had when they were alive. There's something to that, right? And I think of, even as we look in our lives, we don't know what the plan is. We can't see what that is. But we just strive day after day. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important to live out integrity, right? Because mm-hmm. I always say to my family that my goal in life is to leave a legacy. For some people, it's I want 1,000 people at my funeral. For me, I'm not going to be here. I don't really care. If you can cremate me for all I care. Right. It's irrelevant to me. I know, my family would want otherwise, but the point I'm trying to make is for you to live on past your death is mm-hmm. like, and I mean that personally, and I mean that in this business, mm-hmm. to do something in this what we're doing here that will outlive us. Yeah. Even if that means that the doors get shut at some point, you know, but that it outlives us.
Mm-hmm.
Like how awesome would that be?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that means, you know, our kids and grandkids take over, or it just outlives us, you know? It
Right,
just,
right.
Something we did
Right.
sort of carries on.
Right, that integrity, right? I think that's it. Like having, you know, again, being faithful through and through to the point where, you know, it's bigger than who we are.
Yeah.
You know? Bigger than our own lives. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's
And my wife doesn't always agree with me, but I'm on the school of when I'm at a nice ripe age and I've accumulated however much it is, if it's significant, that I'm probably going to give it away. Mm-hmm. Probably all of it.
Yeah.
You
can't
some
take it
people
with
say,
you.
well, once you see
know?
grandkids, it changes things.
Sure.
But I just don't believe in giving people things they don't earn.
Yeah.
Especially like my own kids and stuff like that. And that's just not me.
Yeah.
Like, look how hard we worked for it, right? Imagine just to hand it to them.
Well, I know, right? Well, you know, and I mean, my parents were teachers, you know, we did well, but we weren't balling, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think part of that, who makes you and I who we are is having to do that, find our own path.
Right.
You know, and having to struggle and grow, you know? And that's why you see people, I mean, you talk, you know, you got, you know, the Gates, you know, Bill and Melinda Gates, and how they're just giving that stuff away, you know?
Rather than, well, my kids are going to get, you know, 5 billion 5 billion, you know, it's like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not your money. That's my money.
That's my money. Right. I'd be curious to see, even like, we talk a lot about Elon Musk. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a lot of kids, you know?
Yeah. Right.
And I wonder what the plan is there, you know? Is he gonna trust fund those kids, or is he gonna be like
trust fund,
you know, or are you gonna be like,
no,
well, you're gonna have to do something.
We'll bring this full circle and we'll end. Be generous with it. Give it away. Don't trust fund. Don't trust fund your kids. I just saw a thing. I don't even know if it was legit. It might have been Twitter. I don't remember. That it said, it was actually LinkedIn out of all places. Uh-huh. It was Dan Pena. Of course.
Oh, man.
It said, this is why the world is effed up, or something like that. Yeah. And it showed a guy getting sentenced for killing his dad. Some 20-some-year-old. Murdered his father because his dad cut him off. No. Yeah. Rich dad cut him off. And then so he murdered the dad.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
screwed up. What do you do? How are you going to give someone everything their whole life that they didn't earn?
Right.
And then become an adult having everything handed to them, and then all of a sudden,
right,
this stops.
And why do you think the dad did that? Was it out of spite?
No idea.
Probably because he's like, son, you got to go and learn, you know.
Exactly.
You got to grow up.
Exactly.
You know. And I think that's a blessing, you know. Yeah. That's definitely a blessing.
So do it soon and don't get murdered. Do it from day one.
Yeah, give it away. Yeah, get rid of it before.
Yeah. But like Gary Vee says, my kids are rich right now, but they're going to be broke in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Anyways, good stuff.
Yeah, man.
Catch you on the next one.
All right. Peace out.